Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined by Dakota Lasky. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. I'm doing good. Everything's been pretty good lately. We just talked about a bunch of stuff before the
Yeah.
show. I guess big thing. I'm going to Greece next week, which I'm really excited about. So I won't be around for the episode, 2 episodes from now. But yeah, I'm excited about that. Cinco de Mayo was this past weekend. I hope you had a good Cinco. I don't know if y'all do anything for
We
Cinco de
got
Mayo in Canada.
tacos. We got tacos,
Okay.
but, there's always places you can go to celebrate. We
Yeah, I
didn't
went
really
out.
do
That was
anything.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. I have something you're gonna appreciate though, by the way. Guess what I'm
Okay.
doing tomorrow? Take a guess what I'm doing tomorrow.
You're going to a hockey game.
I'm going to Game 4 of the Devils
I knew it.
Hurricanes at the Rock at the Prudential Center.
Okay.
I've never been to a playoff NHL hockey game. I've never been to a Devils playoff hockey game.
Okay.
And my birthday is coming up on May 30th. It is also my roommate's birthday around the same time. And I figured, what better way to celebrate both as Devils fans?
Yeah, splurge a
Turning
little
30
bit.
this year.
Yeah.
We're going to a Devils playoff game, so I'm excited about that. Yeah.
I've only been to one Flames playoff game in my life, and it was actually this is way back when, because I was young when this happened, but so the Flames went to the Stanley Cup final in 2004, and my brother and I camped out to get tickets. So we got the last 2 tickets. This is before you could just buy them online or whatever, and
Right.
We ended up going to Game 6, and it was a triple overtime game that we lost. But it was so awesome.
Damn, yeah.
It was, and the Flames were down 4-0. So some people were filtering out at the start of the third period, and it was bam, 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 scored and tied it up. It was so sick. You're gonna have a good time, I'm sure.
I can't wait. And I haven't been to a double or triple overtime game in a while, but back in the day when they had that in the regular season, where you can go to a random
God.
Islanders game on a
Yeah.
Tuesday and it goes till 1 a.m. because they go to triple OT for no reason for a random midseason game. So that was a long time
I don't
ago.
miss ties in hockey at all, but I'm excited for you. That's another. I told you I was jealous about going to Greece, and I'm also jealous that your team is still playing for the Stanley Cup. So
It's been a long time, man. I feel like it's been a while since the Devils have, at least from what I remember, getting past the first round of the playoffs, if not making the playoffs at all.
Yeah, I know. It's you guys did the right thing though. You rebuilt where Calgary's just kind of been consistently mediocre for as long as I can remember. So there it is. Okay, well I'm pretty stoked about this show actually, because it's almost, it's not quite full circle, but it feels like the revisiting of a great topic that you and I, for when we started this podcast, we kind of built up this Other M episode, and we built it up and we built it up. And I think that we really delivered 2 amazing episodes on Other M. And I thought it was I think it's actually still one of our best shows ever. The 2, I think they're episode 50 and 51 or something like that. And I'm excited because I feel like we've revisited Other M a few times, but I don't know if you and I have really revisited Other M. I did an episode actually that I also really loved with our pal Kiwi Talks, where I kind of rewrote the story of Other M. But it's been a while. It's been a while since we talked about this game, and by God, we're here to definitively rank it. So
it's
exciting.
been a while, man.
Yeah,
this show was built, I think, on Other M, for better or for worse.
It kind of was that. That was the tease for a long time.
It was, and I feel like a lot of episodes, somehow or another, I brought up how much I didn't like Other M, which I apologize to anyone who's a longtime listener and had to go through those early episodes of the show. Yeah, I had to get it out of my system, and I think I have. So, but
it's
been a while.
Yeah.
Been literally over 100 episodes since.
I can notice the difference, because when we used to bring up Other M, you were just and now it's just kind of
I don't know what it was.
whatever.
It wasn't even that long ago, but I don't know what it was. But yeah, now it's whatever. But yeah, I was glad we went back to this, because at the end of the day, it's just a game, whatever. But we've talked. What you just brought up is a good point. Because I love to talk about I like looking at the stats and how the show does throughout the months and whatnot. And the 3 games that have our most popular episodes, what 3 games surround those episodes are Metroid Prime Remastered. So the recent episodes of Metroid Prime Remastered, everyone Was love to hear us talk about that, or just listen to stuff about that in general. Metroid Dread, and then Other M. So episodes involving those three games are our most listened to and most popular episodes from what I've seen. So
Yeah.
Other M is the game we have not gone back to recently out of those three. So I feel like it makes sense to finally bring it back to talk about it a bit more.
Yeah, and I mean, like you look at those three games and you're kind of just like, okay, one of these things is not like the other. But I mean, like, say what you will about Other M, but you can get a lot of good conversation from it. You can get a lot of, I don't know, different opinions and different takes about this. I actually feel like I kind of started off, like, when we started the show, like, I didn't really like Other M. And then we played it for our Other M episode, and I actually kind of think I ended up disliking it almost more, because I feel like it's like really frustrating. It's a frustrating game because it is. You look at it, as we'll talk about, and we'll go through all the different categories here, but I feel like the more, like, I did that show with Kiwi where I was like, this is what I would have done using the same basic premise of Other M, and I feel like that was cool, and like the game had a lot of potential to be really cool, and it's frustrating that it just missed it so much in so many different aspects. So I'm not just like Other M, but I do, when I think about it now, I'm like, God, like I wish we could have a redo on this one, because like with a few, maybe not a few, but with a couple like substantial tweaks, like this could have been like a cool Metroid game.
I agree, and I feel like most people would agree that before the game came out, it looked pretty cool. Like I remember being pretty hyped for the game, and it's interesting how you said last time you played it in earnest that you had it like you disliked it more. I don't really entirely remember because I haven't gone back and listened to those episodes in a while, but I have to imagine that when I went back and played it, I also was like, wow, this game is still as bad as I remember. But for this episode, I went back to the game very briefly. A mixture of, just like researching the game again, watch some stuff, playing the game, etc. I didn't play the whole game again, for anyone wondering, but didn't do that to myself. I had other things to do. But in playing it again, I found a new appreciation for it, because I think it's really funny. I think it's a really funny game. And and this is something I don't know if we've talked about on the show. We've talked about it outside, but we really want to do, at least I really want to do, I'm going to say we really want to do watch the entire cutscenes, all 2.5 hours of whatever of the Metroid Other M cutscenes, the movie, and watch it and provide commentary and whatever and enjoy it, because I think this game is unintentionally a really funny game. And I have found a new appreciation for it because there are a lot of funny moments and bewildering moments that I just almost forget about. Like there's so much stuff you could dig into.
That's a good word.
That you forget. Like it's so dense with stuff that's ridiculous that you almost forget about it because there's so much other stuff going on that like people remember and they talk about it more. But like there's deep cuts of ridiculous and funny things in this game that I found a new appreciation for. And it actually made me want to find some time maybe this summer to actually sit down and play the whole game fully, and maybe I'll do that, but I'm not going to get anyone's hopes up really. But yeah, new appreciation for it.
I think how do I say this, under the right circumstances, watching those cutscenes could be enjoyable. So,
man, I'm telling, I mean, it's I'm sure there's a lot of stuff. I just think about it as like a really interesting 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah, well, like I said, under the right circumstances, I think that it would be interesting, and I think it would be fun, and I think it would be an experience to behold. Let's just put it that way. So, okay, we're going to start definitively ranking this game, and I'm just going to quickly recap how this series works. Yeah. It's actually been a minute since we've done it, and the last time we did it was with Metroid Prime back in November. So,
can you name the first definitive ranking? Here's a Mega Metroid trivia question for you, Andy. What is the first game that
I can? Can you?
Yeah, I know the answer. Okay, do you know the answer?
Metroid Prime 2 Echoes.
That's correct.
Followed by Metroid Fusion. Followed by,
I want to say Samus
Returns. Maybe.
I think so.
I almost feel like there's something in the middle there, but yeah. Regardless, so the way that this works is we're going to take 10 categories that are fundamental in building a Metroid game, and we're going to give them a ranking of 1 to 5. 5 being awesome, 1 being not so much, not so awesome. There's no zeros allowed, unfortunately. So our scale's gonna be 1 to 5, and we're gonna talk about those entire different categories and kind of give a whole ranking at the end of it here. So the categories are world and atmosphere. So like what's the vibe of the game? What's the mood? The world, the setting, the art style. So like how do the enemies look? How does Samus look? How does the world look? Graphic presentation in general. Story, self-explanatory. Pacing and progression, this one's a little bit more subjective, but this is kind of a hallmark of Metroid games to, those games that keep you moving and you don't get stuck or frustrated, anything like that. The gameplay or quote-unquote the gimmick of the game, so is there a certain thing that maybe makes this game stand out a little bit more? Items and abilities, self-explanatory. Areas, how the different areas in the game hold up. Enemies and bosses, expansions and power-ups, and music. So there we go. Those are the 10, and we're going to get rocking and rolling. And let's start with the world and atmosphere. And do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'm by the way, the third game, definitive ranking game, was Metroid 2, not Samus Returns.
Metroid 2, yes. I knew there was one in there.
Sorry, I had to look it up. You can go first.
Okay, so I want to preface this with, like, I do want to be fair to Metroid Other M. I don't think anybody wants to hear either of us just like completely beat up on this game for the next hour, but we are going to give it its licks.
You sure?
Sure? Maybe you're right. Actually, maybe
they
do.
Let us know in the comments below if you want us to spend an hour.
Well, let me tell you, if you do want that, you're gonna get some of it, because I do have some critiques, harsh critiques. But I also want to point out the things that I think are okay, and I think that the world and atmosphere of the game is okay. I would say. Can I give it a 3? I was going to give it.
I was going to give it a 3.
I think I'm going to give it a 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I think Other M really tried to give like a heightened Metroid experience.
Yeah.
I think like everything feels very heightened, cinematic, dramatic. I like all of that, honestly, and I did find a new appreciation of that, especially like right out of the beginning. Like I love like there immediately you can tell like there's like mystery, intrigue.
Yes,
and like right out of the gate, it never lets up, honestly, throughout the story in a lot of ways.
Yes,
or at least in the story beats, like they're all very dramatic. But I think the problem with it is it becomes melodramatic at times. It becomes overly dramatic, which is why I would pull it back to a 3. It has the makings, I think, of like a really cool like space opera like epic in a lot of ways. There's a lot of scale. And I think if it didn't teeter back to melodrama, especially towards the end, I would have given this a higher score. Once you start to get into like the MB, Madeline Bergman, like telepathy, not all that nonsense towards the end of the game, like and anytime Samus speaks ever, the melodrama I think is like really thick. But the world building, all that stuff I think is really gives like a heightened feel to the game that I don't think other Metroid games have, which feel a lot more grounded and low key in terms of storytelling. So I really appreciate that, but I think it goes too far and swings back to melodrama, so I would give it a 3 as well.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to separate like atmosphere from the story, because I think the atmosphere sets up a lot of cool stuff.
It's like tone almost.
Yeah, like it sets up cool stuff, but then the story fails to pay it off, which is kind of the undoing. And we'll talk about that.
Understatement there, yeah.
But like I think you're right. Like I think like there's a sense of mystery and of danger, and like I know it's kind of cliche now, but like the Traitor Among Us story I think is cool, or like a good concept, and like it adds a little bit of tension to it. I just think that like again it's a sci-fi trope, but like there's something about a good old abandoned spaceship that you don't know exactly what's lurking around the corner that still works, as we saw in Metroid Fusion. And I think that, yeah, there is like a sense of there's a sense of mystery about this bottle ship that I think works well, which I think if you isolate that, then the world and the atmosphere and what they set up is really great. It's just, if someone were to tell me that they couldn't give it a high enough score because the story doesn't pay it off, I couldn't really disagree with you.
Yeah, and I think too, it also borrows so much from Fusion, especially in this category,
Yeah.
that like I think the fact that it shows it in 3D and makes things look really cool, kind of like offsets that. But a lot of it feels like, oh, we kind of like the ship concept, like all that's cool. But when you think about it, like such a retread from Fusion that if you've already played that game, I think it kind of has diminishing returns. Whereas if Other M was your first Metroid game, or one of your, if you haven't played Fusion before Other M,
Hmm.
that you don't have that kind of feeling going into it, and so all this stuff feels kind of fresh and new, and already at such a heightened level that you don't have that diminishing effect. So but yeah, I agree otherwise.
So off to a good start, I guess. So we got two threes for world and atmosphere. Let's talk about the art style, and I'm a little bit conflicted on this. I think I'm going to give it a two, but you could maybe talk me up
Ah,
or down. There's something about the character renders of this game that I like. I don't really love the Variasuit in this game. I don't love the look of young Samus in this game. I think Ridley looks horrible in here. The commandos look, I don't know, like not there's something that just doesn't pop about them, and I don't know if it's like the overly like, I mean, let's just call it
everything's
what it is, like,
sleek and
yeah.
polished and like toy like plasticky
It like
almost.
it's very, I hate using this term, but like it's very like anime. Like it looks very anime-ish
Oh
to
well,
me.
a lot of like character designs, yeah, like
Yeah.
their facial, like how they look, like gives that
Which
anime look to
which
it.
I
I don't
think
know.
can
It's like
work.
they look like Tekken characters in some
Yeah.
ways.
And I think that can work in a Metroid game too, but there's something about the way that the spooky ship with like the anime character, I don't know, something about it just doesn't jive for me. I think that there's like I do think that there's some cool enemy designs in this game for sure, and I think for the most part, like graphically, the game is, it looks pretty good for a 2010 Wii game.
I
And
think the game
the
looks
cinematics
great
look,
for a
yeah,
week. I think,
look,
yeah, the cutscenes look pretty
um,
solid
the
overall.
cutscenes
Yeah.
I think look great. It's just the art direction. It just doesn't it doesn't hook me in this game. Like it feels, like a lot of this game. It just feels slightly off. Like something doesn't quite line up to fit like it should, or give you the desired effect that it should. Like I think there's a lot of moments where like I don't, and I can't say if it's the art direction, but like kind of like you alluded to, it's like something should be serious, but you're just kind of like, this looks ridiculous because this character just,
That
the
I agree
final
with.
boss fight comes to mind for me in that. Like when the Colonel shows up, it's like, what?
Oh, I the final boss fight, the final encounter, I would say. I
Yeah,
mean, it's not really a boss fight. Yeah, I think a whole nother story there.
yeah.
Um, yeah, the art style of this game, like going off the polish thing, it's almost like you took something really cool and like sanded it down so much that there's no cool like edges and fine like details and stuff about it.
Hmm.
I think there are some. I actually kind of think there are some cool character designs. I mean, like Anthony's I think a great character. There's like I actually kind of like Samus's design, like casually, her power, the very soon power suit, definitely not, but like outside of that, um, the space environments I think look incredible, especially like outside the battleship look really good.
Hmm.
Some of the environments, especially in the cutscenes, look great. And there are some cool ideas in the art styles, but they aren't executed well. I think the best example of this is, do you remember the big this is early in the game, the big boss like purple bug monster thing
Yeah, this is
that
when you
like,
get separated from the rest of the team.
yeah, like the eyeball looking at him on the ceiling, and then like the little blobs like formed into a big like, I don't even know, like it looks like that thing from Looney Tunes, the red guy that, like, you know what I'm talking about, like with the big,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it was such a cool idea. Like the eye looks sick, and like having this thing like build together, like it's a classic like enemy trope in a video game. But look, it's a cool idea. That's why it's a trope. It works. But then it forms into some big goofy like flailing inflatable arm tube man like character. Like it looks awful. It looks silly actually. There's a lot of instances like that. Like Ridley is a great example,
Hmm.
character design wise. Like looks like a Pokemon, like has a weird like flappy beak, like I don't know, mouth. Looks like he's on steroids. not a big fan of
It
having the whole
looks
evolution.
so weird, and like
Yeah.
like a pterodactyl with his snout. It just
Even
looks
like the Zebesians in some ways, they're like their
yeah.
eyes are all they look like chameleons, which is like interesting, but I'm like, like I don't know, like it's they look less insect-like and more in some ways and more like reptilian, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, I actually would give the art style also. Um, mm, I'm wavering between 2 and 3 on this one. Uh I'm gonna go with a 2 point. Can I? Can we? Are there? Can we do? Do we do decimals?
You
You
gotta
want to do
pick. You
decimals?
gotta pick one.
Man, there's some stuff in this. I don't think it's that bad though. I don't think it's that bad.
Like it's not horrible, but there's just something
I'm gonna
that
go with 3 again. I'm gonna go with
okay.
3 again. Yeah,
Like
3 for
again,
me.
like the common theme of this game is like there's good ideas, but they don't quite hit or they don't quite click, or and it's just not exactly as good as it should be or
Which I
as it
think is
could be.
interesting because so much of it is clearly inspired or like taken from Fusion. Like it's essentially like I feel like I've said this before. Like it's essentially Fusion in like a 3D game or whatever,
Mhm.
right? Like so like the whole scenario, like the sectioned off bottle ship, like the you know
Right.
an imposter on board, whatever it is. Like all that stuff. But they kind of took some of the interesting stuff from Fusion and then also sanded that away and kind of reduced it to like its most like um maybe generic kind of like foundational element. And doesn't really do anything interesting on its own with it or try to like spin on what Fusion did
It's just
when it
kind
had
of
the opportunity to, you know?
you know what it's like? It's like if I were to tell you a joke and it's hilarious and it's natural and it's great and whatever, like that's like Metroid Fusion, and then you tell someone else the same joke and like this is Metroid Other M. They've already heard it. It's not as funny. It's a little bit more practiced. It's a little bit more, I don't know, like not as natural in a way. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's kind of how I feel about the.
I know I get what you're saying. I see Fusion as like a well structured like funny joke, and then someone else repeating the same joke, but like only getting like half the punchline and like half the setup, and then they
Maybe,
rush
yeah.
through it, and it doesn't come off as well, but it's kind of still kind of funny.
Okay, well, this is what everyone listening wants to hear us talk about. So
Woo!
I'm going to let you go first, and then I'm going to weigh in
Ah,
after. The story of Metroid Other M. I cannot imagine that we are coming away with any high scores in this category.
man, I'm telling you, I want to do the commentary on the game story so bad. This game is funny. If obviously my score is a 1. The story is awful, but if we were scoring it on how much I now enjoy the story from a like comical like perspective, 5, easy
Hmm.
5. Over the years, I don't know, maybe some people out there might know of like Red Letter Media, like Best of the Worst. I really like bad movies and bad TV, like intentional, not intentionally bad, like just stuff that is knowingly bad, and you watch it for the like you think it's funny. That's where Other M has kind of gone from me now. I used to like hate it with a passion, it like ruined, and now I'm like, I don't care. It's just a video game. Like this is funny. There's one scene in this game that I think is just like unintentionally such a whole one of the most hilarious moments I think in all of Metroid is there's a scene where I think it's Samus, I want to say it's Adam, and then like a couple other feder or the troops or whatever, and that guy Lyle, if you remember Lyle, I think is he
Hmm.
the leader or whatever he is. They Samus just did like a monologue, like explaining what everyone's doing in the room, as she does in every single scene in this game. Adam says something, and then like I think this is actually around the bug boss I just talked about. He starts shooting at something and like kills it after a couple shots, and he just keeps shooting it. He's like like going crazy, and Adam's like, oh my god, and like Sam's just like standing there emotionlessly watching. I'm like, this is awesome. This is so good. Like the guy, like the voice actor, was having like a field day, just chewing the scenery. I thought it was really funny, so I started like find like a new appreciation for the game. Samus, I mean, I think it's really
Eesh.
funny. Well, I think it's really funny how people are like, oh, they tried to give Samus emotions and whatnot in this game, and people hated it. I'm like, dude, it's Samus sounds like she had a lobotomy in this game. Like she is like the most flat, monotone. Like it is so. It's like really hilarious how flat and monotone it is. It's like it's crazy, and she's just explaining the most obvious things. Like someone like ties their shoes and like picks their nose, and Samus is like he had to bend down and tie his shoes so he wouldn't trip. And then he felt an uncomfortable sensation in his nose and picked his nose due for post haste or whatever. and that's like every scene. I'm like, wow, this is like it's honestly hilarious. I really loved it. I enjoyed it a lot. So 1 in terms of actual writing, 5 in terms of enjoyment for me.
Yeah, this is a 1. This, I mean, what else could it be, right? Like, and I actually think I will, like, I won't die on this hill, but I'll stand on this hill. I think the premise of Metroid Other M is actually, like, kind of cool in its own way. Like,
Yeah.
you land on the ship, there's a traitor amongst you, you've got artificial intelligence running wild, and you've got this secret program, like this breeding program. I think that sounds like kind of cool, but it's like, first of all, like, I hate that Adam's team.
It's a double breeding program.
Yeah.
In the end, they're trying to recreate the space pirates and the Metroids. Like, they're double breeding.
First of all, like that, I hate that too, because it's like
they're going crazy.
You've said all the time, like, it's just a retread of fusion, and when you look at that, it's like, yeah, like, what if after the fact you were like, okay, we're breeding the Metroids over here, we're breeding the space pirates over here. Like, I could be like, I could believe that. That makes sense. I think there's a lot of stuff that got lost in translation in terms of, like, is this the Galactic Federation? Is this some offset of it? Like,
well, they do say that it's like in this game as well. They're like, oh, yes, very specifically, this is an offset of the Federation. Blah, blah. There's no. I think in this one, it's very clear, like, it's some offshoot or whatever. Even though they have this massive. I mean, this ship has to be crazy. There's a volcano in this ship.
The ship is ginormous, and there's two other ones.
And no one seemed to know about it. I mean, I know it's space is huge too, but like that ship is crazy huge. So I have a lot to say about that space pirates and Metroid thing, by the way. But continue.
All right, so let's back up here for a second. Like, first of all, Adam meeting with Samus, like, that, it's like the coincidence of the century. So I feel like it's a little bit too far for me. Of course, Ridley. I actually don't even hate the Ridley evolution idea. I think that's okay. But, like, the payoff to it with Samus is horrible. I think we all know that scene.
If they had a throwaway line of, like, it's Ridley mixed with a bunch of creatures' DNA. That's why he's like, he has like a fur.
Yes, what they should have explicitly stated is, like, this is not Ridley. This is the scientist's recreation of Ridley. I actually think what would have really served this game well is if they just hid, like, voice logs around and be like, this is Madeline Bergman, and this is Experiment Ridley, blah, blah, blah.
I don't know if I want to listen to any more of these characters talking
well,
I mean,
they need to. I don't disagree, but, like, let's say in a perfect world where the characters sound like real people, like, that would have been okay.
I think they do say specifically that it is a Ridley clone. It's not Ridley, but I think that's my problem with it, is that I would want it to be Ridley mixed with other things. I don't want the assertion to be that's how Ridley was. He was also a Pokemon. And this clone is a perfect recreation of that.
Yeah, I think if they just said
that, there was a difference.
If they said, like, this is our creation, we had to create something else and hope that it evolved into Ridley, great. Yeah, like, that, exactly. That's perfect.
I don't think they say that.
So that is an issue for me. I actually, the thing that I hate the most of the story of everything in this game, which I would have said that Samus scene with Ridley before I replayed this, but, like, this game sets you up for so many awesome boss battles and constantly yanks them away from you. Like, there's 3 of them that I can think of off the top of my head. Like, so you build up to this big fight with the Deleter, and you kind of have that fight with him with his yellow, like, big gimmick, the thing from Aliens.
Yeah, the Aliens thing, yeah.
But, like, it's not really, like, you're fighting the Deleter, but you don't get any payoff. You don't actually be like, it's James, you're the Deleter. So you don't get that, like, big payoff with him. So they yank that fight away from you. They yank the second Ridley fight away from you because the Metroid Queen has went and ate it. And then they yank the MB fight away from you at the end, which I guess you technically sort of fight this thing.
That last encounter is not really even like a fight.
So you were talking about that scene with Adam. That scene when, like, the Colonel from Metal Gear Solid 3 waltzes in at the end of it is so awesome because it's like, who is this guy? Like, who are you supposed to be? Like, where? What? Who are you?
Yeah.
Like, and he's like, he's so ridiculously evil that it's just like, okay, come on. And like the stuff with Adam and Samus in Sector X.
Well, let's back up a little bit here. That's a lot. I agree. It starts to go off the rails, especially towards the end. Real quick with the ending scene, because I want to talk about the encounter itself later in terms of, like, gameplay and bosses. Yes. But yeah, this game, like, it's so weird to me. They kind of like made the game that like kind of sets out to like make Samus seem lame almost, which like I don't understand why. Like the end of the game, the Colonel's like, "You're an outsider. You have no jurisdiction here." Blah blah. And Anthony has to show up and be like, "Actually, blah blah blah. We can, we're part of this. I'm still alive, therefore we can
Yeah,
do all this stuff." She doesn't even take out MB. The Federation people do it. Samus herself is constantly degrading herself. Like, if I didn't do this and blah, blah, then this wouldn't have happened. I suck, all blah. I'm such a brat and I had such a troubled past, like all this stuff. Um, it's like,
it's very
I want to root
odd.
for Sam. I want to root
Yeah.
for her. Like, I loved in like, in other games where like your character like walks by an NPC like, whoa, look at this guy, like, look, he's the man, he's the, I don't know, I don't need that validation from NPC, but like it's weird to have your hero and no one seems to like them except like one person. It's just like, it's like in wrestling where like you're a baby face and like none of the other faces come out to help you and you get beat down every time. I never understand why that happens. No one has any friends back there. But yeah,
To add to that too, like I
but that
think
was
that
weird.
I think that you can tell like a story where like your hero is growing or overcoming an arc or overcoming adversity or something like that, and like that's fine.
Yeah, of course.
It's just like you have to tell it well with a payoff, because that's the other thing about this game is like I'm jumping to the end, but like there's no payoff. Like you rescue Madeline, Anthony leaves with you, and it's like, and then what? Like did somebody get help? Like, did this Colonel guy get arrested? Like, Metroid Fusion still happened, so like we know that it couldn't have been that. Like, the consequences could have been that dire, right? Like,
Sometimes stuff just happens, man. Sometimes there is no point. It's just a thing that happens.
so I
Um,
mean, hey,
yeah. So what I actually have a few more. I have a lot of notes here, but I want to jump back to something else we were talking about, which was the Space Pirates and the Metroid breeding program. So this game is really hell bent on like this new depiction of the pirates, where like they're this like mindless like group of beings that can be like coalesced under like into the space. Like they keep saying resurrect the space pirates. Like I don't know. I feel like especially in the Prime games, like it was more so like the space pirates are like soldiers of whatever. Like they're the soldiers, that they're foot soldiers, the Zebesians, the foot soldiers, whatever. But like
mhm.
they're not like mindless. Like they're smart individuals. Like they have like in the logs they're clearly like communicating all that. In this game, like they're mindless and they creating like a new army of Zebesians and like controlling them with psychic powers. It was weird. And they kept saying resurrect the space pirates over and over again. But then because Ridley was there, like they all went crazy. Like they start trying to explain that. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Yeah, they mentioned that a bunch. So I thought that was weird. Um, what else? This is something that I feel like isn't talked about a lot when people go back to talk about Other M. Do you remember the plot point involving, I believe, Adam's brother Ian?
Ian Malkovich, yes,
Ian Malkovich. So,
Adam
um,
sacrificed him.
okay, so I want you to sit here and I want you to I want you in your own words explain to me what happened in that scene. Like what happened?
I can
Why
explain what happened, but it doesn't make Samus look good, which I'm thinking is probably your point. But
no, no,
so
no, no. But explain to me in your own words. What do you think happened?
so this is what happened. There was some kind of emergency or something like that. So basically, Adam Malkovich is the commanding officer of a mission, and his brother Ian is on foot. I can't remember exactly where, but I think in somewhere that there was something going wrong, and Adam makes the tough call to have that part of the ship or whatever it is essentially detach, and essentially he's sacrificing his brother to save the rest of the crew. And Samus has a temper tantrum about this because she can't understand why he would do this, because that's his brother, or maybe it's just because it's a crew member at all. Which I guess in like one sense, like kind of is depicting Samus as like she won't give up on anybody. But I think it comes across as just like she's being really bratty and just being like the way that the game presents it is Adam's making a tough but necessary choice, and
Yes.
Samus is not happy with it. And maybe that was their intention, but that's the way that I remember it.
Yeah. So here's how I understood what was happening. I'm also missing. I'm still missing details. There's a ship with people on board, them and like regular people, whatever, not like the crew. And there's also like I guess the drive or the engine or whatever. They say how this is first of all, I think the whole setup for this scene doesn't make any sense. They say how Ian's out there. He's like he's in his full suit, like doop doop doop, typing away, blah blah, with like a goofy smile on his face. I think it's hilarious. I think it's so funny. This guy is like he's like doing work on the computer. They mention specifically how it's a routine drive fix. However, somehow, if it goes wrong, 300 people's lives are at stake. And as we see in the scene, it can go instantly critical, which is what happens in the scene. The drive instantly goes critical. He's working on within 5 seconds. Explain to me how a routine drive fix could also involve something that could set the drive off critical and set the lives of 300 people aflame. And why is one single person handling this? Meanwhile, the music is just blaring in the background. Like it is obnoxious. This is like the most obnoxiously melodramatic. Like Samus is like back there. He's like 300 people. Like I don't care. Like it's your brother. Like I'm like how is this a routine fix? Why is he out there by himself? This is crazy. How could you expect him to do this? Yeah, that whole setup I thought was really funny. It's an absolutely bonkers, illogical scene.
I feel like it doesn't make anybody look good, which is the big point to me.
I think the point of it was that Adam doesn't want to risk Samus's life unless it's absolutely truly necessary, because she's the one who can only get the most important jobs done. And to him, even though it's his brother, he can't risk Samus's life to save who is essentially a not important person in the grand scheme of things, even though it's his brother. I understood that. And Samus is like, I still want to go out there and at least try. Obviously, Adam doesn't want that to happen. What doesn't make any sense is that throughout a majority of the game, Adam seems to not care about Samus's well-being whatsoever. Allows her to walk through a volcano with no heat protection, yet won't send her out to go, do this mission she could probably have succeeded in, and
yes.
Whatever, no one could have died. So I thought that was also a funny contradiction.
Let's talk about that for a quick sec, actually, because I think that is another like essential failing of the story of this game is like, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the authorization thing, which,
yeah, I didn't want to harp on it too much, but I thought that was funny how it tied into that little Ian thing, because I thought the whole scene is funny.
Like the authorization thing absolutely sucks, but like it could have sucked less, or maybe not even sucked at all. Maybe if there was like a storyline reason for it to occur, like Samus, there's I don't know, there's some kind of chemicals leaked and you can't use your whatever beam unless like critically necessary. So like I don't know what that reason would be. To be honest, I would have, we've talked about it before, how like sometimes losing all your power-ups because of something at the beginning of the game could be old hat. But man, I would have taken that over what we got for sure. I don't know what they could have done storyline-wise to make that authorization thing seem less ridiculous, but they could have done something. They could have done anything.
Well, you know what they did do? There is a moment later in the game, which I also thought was just so good. There's a moment in the game where she has to cross a large like chasm in like a generic sci-fi hallway number 4558, and she needs to use her space jump, which is not authorized. So Samus stops and she goes, any objections, Adam, and just activates it and uses it to cross it.
After Adam has disappeared and has been accused of being the deleter, by the way.
So good, because whoever like wrote that was like, yeah, like all that before, this is what, now we got him. Like Samus is now breaking the rules. Like I thought that was just so good because it's so, ridiculous. The Samus I know would have been, the second she was there, was like, all right, activating all of these things. Don't care what you say. Let's go get this job done. Beep, boop. I'm out of here.
That's the thing too. It's like if Samus is the only one that Adam protected Samus because she's the only one that can do these dangerous jobs, and she has all these awesome abilities. Why would you handicap her like that to not be able to save you or figure out what's going on in the shit? It just doesn't make any sense.
You know what also would have been cool, what they could have easily have done, was have a thing where somehow Adam is able to literally remotely control her suit and lock down the abilities, and Samus has to unlock them literally in the system and do that. That would have made sense.
Give
We're
the
way better.
deleter some
Make the
onus.
deleter do
Make
that.
the
Have
deleter
the
do
deleter
it.
have him delete abilities.
Yes.
And she has to like undelete them. Like,
I mean,
that would have been so good.
if two schmucks on a Metroid podcast can think of this, like surely someone could have pictured
To
this.
be fair, it took us 13 years later to figure that one out.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know. The story. I'm sorry.
I don't want to spend too
you
much.
have one more thing? Go ahead.
Well, I don't want to spend too much time more on the story, but I have a few more notes. I'm just going to read verbatim because I think, that's as much as we need to talk about them.
Okay.
Excuse me. So here we go. Funny how Samus just stands there and monologues to herself while other people are in the room. At least she does it by herself in private in Fusion. So many times in this game. In Fusion, when she monologues, she's in the elevator, she's by herself. In this game, does not matter what's happening. She is in monologue mode. She's locked in. Time to monologue. I love that about her. I respect that. This game also does the small group of Federation working on its own thing. LOL, bad fan fiction. Okay, we talked about that. The scene with Samus and Adam at the end where Adam goes off to the sector, whatever, like you mentioned, and
Sector
like closes
Zero
the door.
or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, like Samus just got frozen. They explain like, oh yeah, like the Metroids are being developed so they can't be frozen, except this larva can be frozen, which is how I saved you, very conveniently. What would have been so sick, because as you all know in this scene, Samus is freaking out, banging on the door. Adam gets this really heroic, like everyone but Samus gets a really cool, heroic moment in this game. Adam is like you get like that anime like splash art, like the light beat like on him, and like he gets like this heroic send off. It would have been really cool. Instead, if Samus was like, you know what? Instead of her freaking out about it, Samus should have been like, all right, you got this, and like, dap them up, shake hands, like do some cool thing, do like the thumbs up or whatever, like do something cool, like it badass also, or something.
It also would have shown some character growth for where she didn't understand it before with Ian, and now she does. Now with Adam.
Gets it exactly. Instead, she does the same down.
And frankly,
like,
also it's cool. Like ridiculous that you don't really see inside Sector Zero a whole lot.
Yeah, we don't worry. We don't worry about that.
Well, it's like it's another example of like building something up and like just taking it away.
Yeah.
All right.
Other than that, I had MB being an AI clone or something with superpowers and telepathy. LMFAO. What is happening?
I'm not gonna lie. I love the MB idea. I love me a good AI.
I think that's so funny when you were like earlier, like, oh, it's way too anime for me. Blah blah. I'm like,
I mean, it is
pure anime schlock right there at the end, and I'm like, is this even? At that point, I'm like, is this Metroid? And then there's like one line in there: all humans have become the target of her hatred. I wrote that down as a funny line of describing MB's character. And then Anthony, great character. Bring him back. I would love to see Anthony again. It's kind of a shame that he hasn't shown up. He hasn't really had a lot of opportunity, but I don't know. Throw him in the sequel to Metroid Dread. That'd be cool.
I think he should make a cameo somewhere for sure.
I'd be down for him to be like having another minor role or something like that, not even just a cameo. But yeah, I would give this overall story a 1. But I have found a new appreciation for it. I think there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of funny stuff in here that I think we can we all need to dig in and get something out of it and retool it to something new. But yeah, it's a 1 for me. On this,
obviously a 1 for me. Yeah. I don't have. Let's move on. But I do want to plug. Like I said, that episode with Kiwi where I kind of reworked the story of Other M, but like using the same kind of confinements of the general premise. You should check that out. I was actually pretty proud of that episode, so go check that out. Okay, let's move on to pacing and progression. I actually don't have a whole lot to say about this. I feel like the pacing of Other M is fine for the most part. Like, there's some times where you get bogged down with like really long cutscenes. There's sometimes where it feels like the back half of the game is quite like heavy in terms of like cool bosses. They maybe could have paced those out a little bit more. I don't know. I feel like indifferent almost.
I'm giving it a 2. I mean, there are long stretches of this game where nothing's really happening, and then all of a sudden, just bam, long cutscene.
Yeah,
long cutscene, and then you get to the end of the game, and it's like, oh, the game's been going on for a while, nothing's really happened, but a lot of stuff happens, a lot of cutscenes, a lot of bosses. So I'd give it a 2. Also, the end escape sequence feels very tacked on. There's no like,
Really? Okay.
yeah, it really does to me because the ending of the game is Samus walks away, blah blah, and then the credits roll, and then Samus goes back to get Anthony's helmet,
Helmet. Yep.
which I don't understand how that, but whatever.
It's
I don't remember.
sentimental value. I actually,
No,
I
didn't
wouldn't
he have it with him
necessarily.
when he
No,
went into Sector Z?
he left it on the
Oh right,
in the
right, yeah.
command
Okay.
room. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so she goes back to get his helmet.
I
Big
can't remember
Scary
why
Ghost
she's in her
shows up.
zero suit though when she's escaping. That I don't remember. I actually I like that escape sequence a lot, kind of in a bubble. It doesn't necessarily make sense in the context of the game, but
I think it makes sense in the context of the game because like she fights Phantom and then like she has to get off the ship, I guess, because they're gonna either it's gonna blow it up or they're gonna blow it up or whatever it is. But like it kind of to me kind of felt like they didn't have the escape sequence in the main part of the game, and then they're like, oh wait, we have to do an escape sequence.
yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean when like
Okay.
it doesn't make sense in the like it makes sense in
Okay,
like the
okay.
story, but like
Gotcha. Okay.
it does kind
Yeah.
of feel it's like all right, we gotta get our stuff in, like we gotta get our moves in here, like escape sequence. All right, let's hit it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it a 3. Like I feel like it's like fine for the most part. I'm excited to talk about this gameplay and the gimmick of the game, and I'm gonna give it a 1. Actually, I'm gonna give it a 1
Yeah.
because I feel like you made something complicated that didn't need to be complicated. Like, yes, the Wiimote was an unconventional controller, but like nobody on this world wanted to play with a sideways Wiimote while taking away like your like a bunch of different buttons and a bunch of different options to control. The idea to go into first person mode was really wonky and it wasn't smooth at all. It wasn't fluid. It was distracting and it was you really notice when you have to do it. I think that the sections where you're walking slowly in the third person are horrendous and are actually making me question my pacing score right now.
Yeah, those are parts of the game where like nothing's happening, or like
Yeah.
or something's about to happen, but it takes you 5 minutes to get there because you got to walk
Yeah, like
slow motion through it,
I would lump in the authorization part in terms of like kind of the gimmick of the game too, because it directly affects how you play the game, right? And like you can't use your items, and there's no real good reason for it. So that also brings it down for me. I think that the game mostly controls fine, like when you're moving and when you're towards the latter part of the game, like when you've got all your abilities and when everything feels smooth. I think it feels fine, like when you're playing, but to get there, not what I would have done.
Yeah. Well, outside of combat, I agree. Towards the end of the game, it feels smooth. I definitely try to give this game another go. I know a lot of people think, hey, the story's bad, but the gameplay's good, or they enjoy it. I understand that. That's totally fair. It's still really not for me. I really tried to give it a go, and I think if this game was a twin stick shooter, a top down like twin stick shooter kind of like played game with 2 sticks, like a regular controller, honestly, I feel like it would play really well. Like it would feel really good. It would make sense with how it looks. It makes sense in terms of the gameplay. But so much of this game is like you're fighting against it to play it. Like you're fighting
that's a great
the
way to put it.
controls to try to enjoy the game. Really, for me, it encourages. I mean, so many fights in this game are essentially running around in circles and either waiting for the enemy to attack so you can dodge it and then counterattack, or waiting until you end up facing them so you can shoot like the charge beam you've been holding for the past 10 seconds. Like that's what like so many fights boil down to in this game, and it encourages spamming because you can spam your dodge move. And to be fair, you can't super spam it in some places because like there's so many enemies where like if you're just spamming, you're eventually going to run into stuff, and it actually kind of becomes like a little bit of a test of like rhythm and like when to jump and when not to. But it becomes like
I think
there's
those
that little bit
moments
of,
are few and far between.
I was gonna say like there are moments of like franticness. I think honestly the combat shines the most in very small rooms where you just have like Samus is like up close against like an enemy or two because you're constantly running around trying to get shots off. There's one particular room in the game. I don't know what the enemies are called, but like there are these like flying drone or robot things with like a rail gun on them, or like this big plate, like vertical plate or whatever or something. I don't know what they're called, but you fight two of them in this like really tight square room. It's actually kind of a fun fight, aside from like the bosses or whatever it is. But like that fight in particular, it was like it's frantic, it's close quarters, like you're scrambling not to get hit, you're trying to get in position to
Yeah.
hit them. But that's kind of the thing. You're like fighting the game to get into a position to get shots off. Even though the game assists you in shooting, you still have to at least face in the right direction. But it's hard because not only are you have one input for movement, it's also digital movement. So you don't get like that true analog movement because you're on the D-pad. So yeah, I feel like a lot of it is fighting the game. Obviously, the first person is not great. I feel like they included that to try to entice fans of Metroid Prime to play it. I think it could have just been left out entirely. Though I will say there are some moments, especially against stealth enemies, where you kind of have to like run around the room, go into first person, quickly look at them. But again, like it's both a double-edged sword because the enjoyment comes from the limitedness where you're like, oh, I can't do much. I have to quickly go into first person. Like I can't move. But at the same time, it's like, I should be able to move. I should be able to do, what I could do in a previous game.
I think they were trying to add like a sense of strategy or almost like horror. Like, when you like play the old style Resident Evil games, like you got to pick your shot carefully because you can't move and you're committed to it. And like, I think that's what they were going for, but I also feel like that style was antiquated back then and like ancient now. So I'm glad you brought that up.
It's hard to be accurate. It's hard to be accurate.
Yeah.
Man. Even when you're standing in place, but even when you're running around, it's like I feel like I can never be accurate, and then I have to rely on the game, hopefully, to get the shots off for me.
Well, and that's just it, because I used to say, like, I don't mind the gameplay of Other M, but the story was kind of and then I replayed it, and I was like, there's a lot of stuff I just really don't like. I don't love the dodge button or whatever it is, because it's like, it's so easy to just, like, dodge. Yeah. Like, I think it really sticks out at inopportune times. Like the Ridley fight comes to mind. Like it's kind of a joke of a fight because you can spam this ability. One thing I also think that doesn't get talked about a lot, and I would lump into gameplay as well, is like the way that power bombs are used in this game is like very odd, because the first time that you ever get a power bomb, you're inside the belly of a Metroid Queen and you have no idea how to use it. So like the chances are you're probably going to die, or like you're clinging to life afterwards. So it's another odd choice, and again, just kind of a head scratching decision in a game full of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's one of many on the list. I will say though, once again, there's something that I have praised about this game. The finishing moves, the overcharges or whatever they're called, finishing touches, like. Awesome.
Overkill, I don't know, whatever.
Overkill,
they do look
all
cool.
that. Badass, man. Like seeing Samus like DDT a space pirate literally does not get old. I made sure I at least got far enough to do that in my last playthrough, because I love that, and I love that like Metroid Dread gave like Samus a bit more of like confident movement and like really awesome cinematic movement to her stuff. I'm sure Metroid Prime 4 will do that. I really hope either in the sequel to Dread or in Metroid Prime 4, they bring back, give me some cool finishers. I want to see Samus like do some.
I think that's a staple now. Like, I mean, Dread took it to the next level for sure.
Well, Dread like added it into like cutscenes, and like they added obviously and counters even in Samus Returns. You have that. Like, there's a lot you can do, but I love like the creative kind of ways Samus was like killing stuff, and I would love to see what they could do in a new game. So I would. It's not going to bump the score up for me.
What is your score, by the way?
It's a 1. It's a 1. Yeah. I like.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like the game becomes very spammy. I feel like I'm not really in super control of what I'm doing. It becomes very tedious. And truthfully, I honestly try to give it a chance this time, and I still personally do not enjoy it. If people enjoy it,
like I think that's fair, because like
that's fair, but I didn't.
Like I said, like I for a long time, and like there is a point in the game where the gameplay does feel like quite good, like towards the end when you're just
there are some satisfying moments, for sure, yeah.
But like getting there, it had been a long time since I played Metroid Other M, and I think I maybe just misremembered it a little bit, and I was like getting there is really a slog, and like you're fighting against the game to be able to do very simple things, and it's just. It's a weird decision to have the control that they did. Like, I think that, like, the story was daring and the control scheme was daring, and to do both of those like very wild things in the same game, um, it is daring if nothing else. But it's just like, unfortunately, when not one but both misfire,
Yeah.
it's a recipe for dubious food, as we say in the Zelda community. Okay, let's move on. Items and abilities. You know what?
I don't have much on this one.
I'm gonna go a little bit higher. Actually, I'm gonna give it a 4. This is probably gonna
Okay.
be the highest score I give. Um, yeah, I mean, like, your head might explode at this, but I'm almost gonna compare it in a way to Metroid Prime, where like a lot of the items in Metroid Prime weren't new items, but they were like new ways to experience those items, and I think that
Okay.
almost the same thing applies in Metroid Other M, where like the space jump was very cool in this game. The shine spark was very cool. The speed booster was very cool. Not new items, but like new ways to experience those that aren't in traditional 2D. So I think that stuff was cool. There's some other like pretty neat items in this game, like the diffusion beam. I think that's what it's the one that shoots out all the different
Yeah.
beams or whatever. I think that was pretty cool. I guess Excel Charge isn't really a an item per se, but it was like something that kind of changed the way that you charged up your shots. I think if nothing else, I think that most of the items in this game like did their part. I even don't hate the gravity suit. I know a lot of people do, but like I don't mind that it's just kind of like a little thing that activates when you're in those situations. So yeah, I think that the items in this game pretty solid.
I I I really don't have too much to say in terms of disagreeing with what you just said, but I would give it a 3 based on pretty much all of that. It doesn't do anything offensive. It's not really it brings some items to life in new ways, which I appreciate, but it's overall not really doing anything super original. And I do as I also see what you're saying with the gravity suit, but at the end of the day, like it's a gravity suit. You got to give me something cool, and it doesn't really. It's not enough. I think it's it'd be cooler for maybe something else, but not for the gravity suit. So
Yeah.
yeah, like when I think of Other M, I really don't think of any like standout abilities, like standout suits, standout items, standout pickups. It really doesn't have that many for me. And
I think of the speed boost and the shine spark. I think those
well,
have
well,
done really well.
I was gonna say I will like the space jump, like that kind of stuff, like where you get that cool like camera angle.
Hmm.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is definitely memorable. But that's pretty much it. I don't know if that's like a 4 or 5 level for me. So I'd give it
No,
a 3.
I think if there was like, um, I think if there was like more unique to this game
I
items,
wish it
I
tried more. I
could.
wish it tried more.
Yeah. Like if it played it safe with its items, which as we just said, maybe playing it safe with the items was the worst idea since it kind of struck out with the other ideas that it tried. But I think it worked out well.
That's
Is it the
actually a good
best?
point.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a good point because it maybe to include more complex or like different items and abilities would have been harder to implement with the controls available at the time. You know,
Maybe.
like maybe they couldn't have done more.
I'm
But
sure that they limited themselves in choosing the control scheme that they did also. So we'll see. I guess we
yeah.
won't see. We'll just it is what it is.
Well, Other M too.
Yeah. Okay. Areas.
I'm giving it 2 here. This one I think is probably one of the biggest like fusion, like comparing it to fusion categories for me.
Hmm.
Like, bro, the BSL and the bottle ship. Like the bottle ship is literally just trying to be the BSL again. Like it's a big ship with different sections that are all different like ecosystems and areas. Like the problem is that like I think Fusion tried to do something that was up. It wasn't doing anything crazy with like the elemental like environment video game area trope thing, but
Right.
Other M I feel like did even less. Like and 10 years later essentially, which is what I think does it for me. So much of the game takes place in like the main generic like spaceship interiors, like
Hmm.
way more than I feel like you spend time in the BSL in comparison in Fusion. Um, you have like the green area, which kind of feels like a knockoff Talon 4 to me. You have the snowy area, which just feels like a very generic snow area with a lab or whatever. Like kind of felt like a Call of Duty Wii game map to me. Like it felt very generic. The lava area I actually think is kind of cool because again, a literal volcano. I mean, think about a spaceship having a volcano in it, I think in and of itself is a pretty cool idea. It's unfortunate that it got roped into the whole Samus not having her suit authorized kind of thing. But then you have stuff like the biosphere test area, which is like, I don't know if you remember this, but like there's that whole like sequence that like, and you even when you approach the building, it's like on this big like plain, like this big barren like wild plain.
It looks really cool.
And then
There's like
it looks dope.
dinosaurs. Yeah,
It looks great. And then you go right into the building, and I'm like, man, like why can't we explore the barrens a little? I feel like I don't think you really go around that area very much. Like, and even then, it's kind of still like a barren kind of plain. Like I don't know. There wasn't. They really did not try to do anything very unique and like memorable visually with any of the areas. And again,
Right.
this is where I kind of feel, not to harp on it too much, where I kind of feel like they took something from Metroid and kind of like sanded it down, you know, to its more like most generic compound. Like, they took the you know, so that's, I give it a 2 for that reason.
I wanted you to go first because I wasn't quite sure, but I think you solidified what I was gonna say, and I think it's a 2 as well. And it's kind of like, it's kind of weird because like I actually think like the Biosphere, Cryosphere, and Pyrosphere all are like pretty
That's what
cool
they're called,
areas. Like they're cool, but like it's kind of just like if Metroid Prime 2 had another fire area and another ice area and another like grassy area instead of like trying to mix it up with like, you know, the high tech area or the waste or whatever, right? Like it feels very similar to what came before it, which doesn't help because you spend so much of the game on the main, not the main deck, but like the bottle ship, which feels like the main deck, just a little bit darker. It doesn't, like, I think that in a bubble, all of the areas are mostly fine. And some of them are even pretty cool. Like I think the Cryosphere and Pyrosphere are pretty cool. And I really like
the Cryosphere is the coolest of them if I had to pick for me. Or not, sorry, the Pyrosphere.
I was gonna say I think
Cryosphere.
Pyrosphere is probably
Pyrosphere,
but like
lava
I
one.
think it's really cool. Like when you go into the areas and like, you know, when you can like turn the buttons or whatever, and it like the outdoor simulation whatever comes off, and you're just like, oh, like I'm in a ship. It's cool, but it's
yeah.
But it's also just
that
like,
is cool.
oh, I'm still in the ship.
I guess so. It's technically not a real like volcano in the ship. But
yeah.
like,
Well, I mean, like something is producing heat, which whatever, like that's fine. But
still cool. It's a cool visual.
It's cool visual. I think
it.
that they could have used a little bit more originality because, like, I mean, like you talk ice, you talk fire, you talk forest, like those have got to be like the three, maybe water. It could like the three most common video game levels.
Yeah,
ever,
like
right?
it would have been
like,
cool if they just tried to do a little bit of like a unique spin on them somehow. You know, like maybe it's the ice area, but it's full of toxic sludge for whatever reason. It's the fire area,
something
but
like,
and there's a bunch of molten rock that creates these huge rock formations that look like sand castles.
Maybe take a page out of Dead Space's book and like have an area where there's like a breach in the hull and like you need to go 0G or something, or like something, anything.
That would have been so good. I would have loved to have gone out into the vacuum around the bottle ship. I mean, we've talked about this in the show.
Yeah.
I would love to have some Metroid gameplay in space. Not in space on a planet, in space, in outer space, in the vacuum. So
I think that the areas were like I think they played it safe with the areas as well, which I mean I guess is fine. Like I said, like I think in a bubble, like all of them are fine. They're fun. They look great. I think all of them do, but like they leave you a little bit wanting, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And I also think it doesn't help too that like the bioweapons lab, it looks exactly like the I keep on wanting to call it the main deck, but like the regular bottle ship. You don't really get to see Sector X or whatever the hell it's called. So it's just kind of like, all right, like it's a very sterile atmosphere in a lot of ways. So yeah, I'm giving it a 2 as well. Let's talk about enemies and bosses. I feel a little bit conflicted here. Actually, you know what? I don't feel conflicted. I'm going to give it a 1. I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think that what I mentioned earlier, the thing I hate the most about this game is all the boss fights that you don't get. Like, and I think that when you play Metroid Other M, there's one truly great fight, and that's the Phantoon fight, which I think is awesome. It's an amazing fight. It's cinematic. It's so cool. But then it's just like, okay, you have this horrible Ridley fight where he looks ridiculous. You can cheese the fight, and you suck, and you get saved by Anthony. So it's kind of like you slip on a banana, or Ridley slips on a banana peel, and that's how you win. You have this horrendous, if you can even call it a fight, with MB, where you just kind of shoot her at the end, and like that's it. You
shoot like the bugs attacking, or whatever.
And oh yeah, that's right. It's a cutscene where it's horrible.
It's like a first person. You shoot all these bugs, and then the Federation troops show up, freeze her.
And this is her last fight. No, they've got her like holding or something. Whatever it is, it's horrible.
No. She gets shot and gets frozen, and then the Federation people show up and shoot her with bullets, and she blows up or whatever. I think is what happened.
Whatever it is, it's terrible. Like, I don't think that the Nightmare fight is awful, but like it's certainly not as memorable as a Fusion Nightmare fight. I think that the Metroid Queen fight is still like not that great, and it's frustrating because you have these new power bomb mechanics that nobody knows how to use because the game hasn't told you until you're literally in the sack of her belly. And I think like beyond those fights, it's just kind of like, okay, like what great fights are in this game? Like you fight the King Key Hunter, it's kind of like You fight the deleter and that stupid yellow construction thing. You fight that stupid Barney looking monster with the eye thing that you mentioned earlier.
Like, the purple thing.
I think it's like,
what was that McDonald's guy?
Grimace.
Yeah, Grimace boss. Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's what he looks like, the Grumbler. Yeah, I pretty much agree with all that. I would give it a 2. I think the bosses and the enemies just in general, to me, like it's held back like combat because of the actual controls and gameplay of the game. Actually,
like I feel like it's not fair because some of my arguments that I'm making are more so like story arguments that you don't get these boss fights because of the story. But like I think it's fair.
3. I'm gonna give it a 3. Like they're not bad, they're not great. They're held back by the actual game themselves. I think the biggest problem is that they're underwhelming callbacks to, you have the Queen Metroid from Metroid 2, but like the Queen Metroid isn't really tied to what's happening in Other M. It's just like, okay, it's an opportunity to have the Queen Metroid in 3D.
Yes.
The Ridley fight, okay, a Ridley fight, but again, like it's kind of held back by the gameplay, whatever. The final encounter is not even really a boss fight, and that's another thing with the story. I mean, sure, it's a story thing, but like Samus doesn't have a lot of agency in this game. She doesn't stop Ridley. She doesn't stop like a lot of stuff.
She
doesn't
feel
stop
like
MB at the end. She watches everything happen in the last scene. She just stands off in the corner while everyone else has all the agency.
Like the game builds and builds and builds to that second Ridley fight, and you never get it. And like, while technically that's not a boss fight fault, like I still feel like that's the, like even more reinforcing what I'm thinking, because like there should be 2 boss fights in this game that really are just like, this is the Metroid Other M like identity, and you should fight the deleter and you should fight MB, and those should be like your big marquee boss fights. And sure, Ridley, because he's in every game, and like
I don't think the Ridley boss is that bad. I honestly don't think it's that bad. I don't think the boss battles are that bad in this game.
I think they missed on all. I think of the 3 most important fights in the game, they missed on all 3. I think that the Fantoon fight is awesome, but how many people are even playing that Fantoon fight? Like, how many people after they beat Other M are just like, wow, that game was so good that I gotta go get the secret ending? Like,
I mean, at that point, you've already gotten that far in another boss battles. I mean, if you're already still at your setup, and you haven't walked away by now.
I hope to God that people playing did go to Fantoon, because it's the best fight in the game.
I'm curious. I wonder how many people don't even know.
I think Nightmare is okay, and I think all the rest of them are just kind of like think about Other M boss fights that always struck me was like they feel like just regular enemies, but just a little bit more. I don't know, jazzed up. And maybe you could say that about like a lot of bosses in Metroid, but like even in Metroid Fusion, for example, like you fight Zizabi, and it's like, this guy looks crazy. Like he looks like no one I've ever seen in this game, or Yakuza, or Saris, or like you could say that about almost any other game. Like, whereas this one, it's like, oh, there's a key hunter, but he's big and like he's the boss. There's a purple thing.
I'm gonna knock it back down. I think that's a good point. The boss designs are kind of whack in this game, and I think Ridley's the biggest offender. So I'm gonna knock my score back down to a 2.
Doing God's work. Okay. Okay, let's move on.
I feel good. I feel good about that too.
Expansions and power-ups.
there's really not a lot of exploration in this game. Like, I don't even. I mean, this is like what a one. Like, you don't even really go around and collect stuff. I feel like so many expansions in this game are like just like on the way. Like they're in your path, and you just get them as you're playing. Like you don't really go out of your way to get a ton of them. Um, what collectibles and extras are in the game? I don't even know. Are there
I
any?
there's a few. There's a few. So I mean, like obviously you have your energy tanks, your expansions, and stuff like that. You can power up your Excel charge during the course of the game, so you can make a charge even faster. And maybe that's it. Actually, I
And
was
there,
gonna
were
give
there any
it
extras in the game?
no,
Like any no art like galleries or anything like that? I don't remember.
no art, no nothing. It was just the expand. I was gonna give it a 3. I think I'm gonna give it a 3, but I think it's because I enjoy using the Shine Spark and Speed Booster, which you use a lot to get obviously these
Well,
expansions
isn't
and
that
stuff
like
like that.
items and abilities though?
Kind
It's not
of,
really.
yeah,
That's not
kind of.
really. That's not. When I think of
Yeah,
expansion in this category, I'm thinking of energy tanks, missile expansions, and like ending stuff you get
you
for
know what? How
completion.
about this? Because I'm
I think you're
trying.
talking about items and abilities now.
Well, no, like I'm talking about expansions, but I'm desperately trying now to think of like
Shine Spark's not an expansion though.
well, I know, but like you use the Shine Spark to get a lot of other
Oh,
expansions,
I
is
see.
what I'm
Okay,
saying.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
But now I'm trying to back up my claim here and think of like a cool expansion that you use it to get, and I'm having a tough time like remembering any specific ones. And like I didn't replay this before we did this episode. I'm sure there are a couple different ones.
Uh oh.
Um,
You better be ready for this 2.5 hour movie episode we're gonna do because we're watching it all the way through, buddy. There's no cutting corners.
well, we'll see about that. Uh, You know what? No, I want to be gracious. I want to keep it as a 3.
I'll give it a
I
one.
can't think of any ones off the top of my head, but I do know that there are some fun expansions where you can use your abilities to get cool stuff. And I will shout out to, it's a very small thing, but not all Metroid games do this, especially in this era. They show you on the map. I think it's after you've beaten the game, but like where the expansions actually are, which is nice.
Okay.
So there you go.
All right. Next one.
Last
And
one.
last one.
Music.
Well, okay. So here's my question for this one. Is this music sound design, music slash sound design? Like, are we including sound effects and are we including voice acting?
Ooh, I was gonna say I think we can include. I mean, it's your own interpretation, right? Like you can interpret it however you want. I know that Doom in the past has incorporated some of the diegetic sounds in all
Well,
of
are we?
that.
I guess my question is: are we including voice
Are we
acting
including voice acting?
in this category? Have we normally done that? Because I mean, there really hasn't been. We haven't done a
No,
game that's had
we
voice acting.
haven't. We haven't,
So
and I can't. I don't
except
know
Dread,
that
I
that's
guess.
fair because that just like anchors the score like
Yeah.
right down. Maybe let's not do that.
Okay. Because like, I mean, to be fair, I actually don't think the voice acting in this game overall is bad. It's just Samus. Samus was directed to be like flat, emotionless. I don't know why. Everyone else, I mean, Anthony's voice acting totally fine. Um, all the other characters, the
Yeah,
voice acting is totally fine. I have no Adam. I think sounds great.
Adam sounds good. I think MB sounds fine.
MB, they all sound fine.
If
It's
not a
just
little
Samus.
over the top. But
Uh,
the Metal Gear Solid 3 kernel sounds ridiculous. But
I
that's
will
not too
say this.
bad.
I don't want to be like that guy, but I went and I listened to the Japanese voice acting for it, and I mean, look, I'm no expert, but like it didn't sound like flat and monotonous to me. It sounded like pretty normal voice acting, you know.
Mhm.
So I'm curious. It's just interesting to me. Like it almost seems like for the American stuff, maybe it was like I have to go and listen to the other languages. I don't know. But yeah, no, that was so leaving out the voice acting.
Let's leave out the
Um,
voice acting because that's just not fair.
I'm gonna give this a 4. Um,
Okay.
I think one of this game's strong suits is its soundtrack. I mean, there are some really good tracks on this. There's one towards I think it's Final Mission Sequence. I think is the name of the track towards the end of the game, which is just really good. I've said this before. The piano medley, which is played in the main menu theme, and I think is like when you're selecting your game file, like fantastic track. It's a nice basic piano theme, but it's really good. I think the Ridley theme, I think, is one of the best Ridley themes in the series. There are a lot of good tracks in this soundtrack. I think there's a lot of good. I mean, the sound direction and design overall, like the game sounds good. Like it sounds like it would be a good game. Like even the voice, like not to talk about voice acting, but even like the voice acting for like the AI or like the computer like programs, like sounds really cool and legit. Like, actually, I will say there are a couple like Federation people whose voice acting is like not that great, especially the guys at the beginning who are like in the testing lab with Samus. I don't know. But yeah, I think the sound design, the music, I think is actually good in this game. I would give it a 4. I think this game's soundtrack is one of the. I think it's underrated. I think it's better than Dreads. Not that I think that's saying much. I think
Oof.
Dreads is really bad. This other M I think has some genuinely good music in it. I think it has good sound design. Um, Especially in the beginning. I mean, you get this like the first shot of like the asteroids just going through the debris, and like you can hear everything blowing up, like which I guess you wouldn't really in the vacuum of space, but whatever. There's like this like almost eerie like space horror behind it a little bit at times. The tone, I think, when you don't get into melodrama, is really set so much by the score throughout this game. So yeah, 4 from me. One of the better parts of the game.
I think I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna give it a 2 actually, because I think of the Metroid Other M soundtrack, and I'm kind of thinking like, okay, what is the signature track of this game? And I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. Like, it
That's a
maybe
piano medley for
maybe
me.
it's the piano at the beginning, but like I feel like that's just kind of like easy
That's
pickings
other
because
but
like
that's other M because it's so. I think that's like the quintessential other M track. Actually, that's what I think of.
I mean, yeah, like, and I get that, and it sounds good, but like,
It's also
so
the
I'm
main
thinking
menu
it's like
theme.
it's the main theme of the series. It's in every game, and every game kind of has a cool rendition of that. So like, beyond that, I'm like, what's the main theme of this game? And like, I can't think of any, and so I'm like, okay, maybe it doesn't have a main theme, and that's fine. Like, what's the music of like the pyrosphere or the cryosphere or the biosphere? And it's like, I don't know, like I can't think of it. It sounds all right, like while you play it, but it's kind of like very soft and almost ambient in a lot of places, which I think can be fine and like kind of maybe feeds into the atmosphere that we talked about. But like, I think like in terms of like standalone music, like I mean, you put this game against even like some of the like not the best soundtracks in the series, but like I'm talking like you put it against Samus Returns or Metroid Dread or like honestly
Nah,
even like
dude.
Federation maybe a Federation Force, but like I don't see it with the soundtrack. It doesn't click for me. It's not memorable. It's just kind of there. The best. It's kind of like the boss battles in a way. It's like the best things in this game are from other games. Like the best soundtrack, like the Fantoon fight is a pretty cool track, but
Yeah.
again, it's I don't know. It's just it doesn't.
No, you're yeah.
It comes like a little bit too little, too late almost for me, and like there's nothing really that kind of makes it like its own identity almost to me, which I'm sure maybe a lot of people out there are gonna say like, you know, how could you not like the soundtrack and link me to a bunch of different videos? And you might be right, but like the whole experience to me just kind of feels like again not quite right, didn't quite click.
I mean, maybe I'm being generous, like relatively to the game, because like I think overall, Other M's soundtrack is like in the middle in terms of the whole franchise. It's like better than Dread, Samus Returns, Metroid 2 for me, but it's not as good as the
Oh
Prime
no
games or
way, not
Fusion.
Metroid 2. No
Oh, dude,
way.
yeah, no, that's easy. I'll
Oh
give Other M that, yeah.
no.
But like it's not gonna stack up to the Prime games, Fusion, Super, etc. That's it's like middle, right in the middle for me. So maybe I'm giving it a 4 because I'm just being generous relatively to it, because like every other game that I think is better would get a 5 or a 6 realistically, but like I
Right.
think for like I'm trying to give this game its dues at
It's
least,
due.
and
Yeah.
at the for what it's worth, I think like some of the cutscenes, the finishing moves and the music are some of the things that this game does right. Yeah, I so I'm still gonna stick with my 4. Maybe it's more realistically a 3.5 rounded up, but and maybe I'm being a bit generous, but I like the soundtrack of Other M, and
I
I
mean, I
will
think that's
say
fair. Yeah, I mean that's
I will
fair.
say that I think the medley, like the piano track, really is very iconic in terms of like being the essential, like the identifier Metroid Other M track to me, and tonally really fits the game. And I think there's a lot more like to dig into in the soundtrack. Though I will say it's not everything in the soundtrack is a banger. I'll give you that. There's definitely a lot of skips and fillers and stuff that like is not amazing or memorable, really. But I do think it has some memorable stuff. And for someone who thinks like the Dread soundtrack has absolutely zero memorable track except the one I hate, this one is doing a lot more. So I'm gonna stick with my 4.
Oh, I would take that Dread soundtrack all day, every day over that. But that's okay because I think that's probably like the most subjective thing on this list, right? Like, is the music. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah. I think that, but it's also a very important part too. And it's why and it's why I think maybe being a bit more generous with Other M here because I remember fondly some of these tracks where thinking back to them, as I was looking forward to this game.
So it might actually surprise you, but as we were talking here, I added up all of our scores, and we both have the exact same score. So both of us, through various scores that we've given out, ended up with a overall 2.2 out of 5 for Metroid Other M, which actually, like, I hate to harp on it, but I actually think that's higher than perhaps like it should be in a way, because like I think that a lot of the categories like are propping this game up, because like the ones that Metroid Other M does well on, like kind of the music or the items and abilities or the atmosphere, aren't like make or break categories to me. Like they certainly add to the experience, and they certainly are a key ingredient in making a Metroid game. But I would say that like the elements that Metroid Other M scores lowly on, like the story, the gameplay, the bosses, they score like those are so bad that it drags it, or it should probably make it worse than this final score actually ends up being. I don't know if you would agree with that, but that's kind of my takeaway looking at this.
I agree. I think like for example, like story for me would be like a 0 or a -1 almost. If like
it would be like a -5
if I had my way.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think it ranks as our lowest ranking Metroid game we've done so far, though, right? Unless
it does. Part of me wants to go back and like redo Metroid Fusion though, because I was pretty critical of Metroid Fusion.
You're a huge Fusion hater, and I'm pretty sure I had to give it all 4s and 5s because that's what it deserves.
I mean, listen, I gave Metroid Fusion some 4s and 5s, and it's not my favorite Metroid game, certainly, but from the time that we did that episode to now, I've played like 100 hours more of Metroid Fusion, so I think I'd have a different perspective. I played a lot of Metroid Fusion.
Oh, you're doing the walkthrough, I think, too.
Yeah. And you know, it's on NSO now, so you just fire it up and...
So yeah, I mean, I think my scores were I had a world atmosphere 3, art style 3, story 1, pacing progression 2, gameplay combat 1, items abilities 3, areas 2, enemies bosses 2, expansions blah blah 1, music design 4.
Yeah. Yeah. So we both got there. Yeah, in the end at the same spot, but
I think that's fair. 2.5.
Yeah, well, I think 2.2
or 2. Okay, 2.2. That I think it's fine. I think maybe if you asked me a few years ago, my score would be a lot lower than that. I think I've come around a little bit, and I've grown. I have matured as a Metroid fan, and realized, you know what? I don't have time to be hating on Other M. I could be enjoying Metroid Prime Remastered. I could be enjoying Metroid Dread. Back then, when I had no new Metroid games to play, I had to fill my time somehow. I mean, hating Other M was a good hobby, but these days there's no need for it anymore. You know.
It's just a frustrating game, like because there is a lot of cool potential and cool ideas that just for whatever reason didn't get executed the right way, and I think it's frustrating because there's really no reason why they should not have got executed that way. You kind of overthought the story, you overthought the controls, there's a lot of things that if there were changes, this could have been like a high quality Metroid game, maybe not the best, but like it's
possible.
Certainly not the game that as our episode stats would point out, like the controversial lightning rod that it became. So
well,
there you go.
I will say, if they ever remake this game or remaster it, which I don't think they need to. I hope they don't. But if they do, when I went back and replayed this, and I also rewatched the cutscene, I always remember. I mean, I think all of us remember that first cutscene in the game, which is like the ending of Super Metroid, and be like, "Whoa!" like the idea of Super Metroid.
Very
like,
cool.
Very cool. You go back and watch that now, and I mean the cutscene wasn't perfect to begin with, but now looking back, the animation or like the look of Mother Brain hasn't aged super well. And I hate to be super critical of animators and graphic designers, it's hard work, but it looks very silly now. That Mother Brain, very goofy to me. I would love a. I mean, I guess the Mother Brain chicken form is always goofy looking and whatnot. So maybe I'm just being I'm nitpicking here, but I went back and I was like, that's something I would love to see maybe touched up a little bit here. But yeah, no, I'm glad we went back to the game, and yeah, I think
I'm a fan of this look. Actually, I like it.
I think it just it's goofy. It's goofy
She
in a good
almost
way.
looks like a liquor from Resident Evil.
She like I feel like she just doesn't. It's like she's not even in the scene. Like you could kind of tell. Like I don't know, but hey man,
yeah,
that's the first cutscene we'll be watching when we watch the full Other M movie. But yeah,
God save us all. Okay, well that's gonna wrap it. I am off next week. I'm gonna be knees deep into Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. We got a big couple of months going on the Zelda cast. So if you're a fan, check us out on the Zelda cast. It's going to be exciting. It's fine. This wait is finally over. And by the way, our boy here was on the Zelda cast a couple weeks ago talking Tears of the Kingdom with us. So go check that out if you did not.
Yes, that's me.
Okay,
what you're talking about.
Oh, great. Well, we are going to jam out of here. Let us know what you think of Metroid Other M, what scores you would give it. I am very curious to hear that. Let us know over on Twitter. We are at Omega Metroid Pod. You can check us out at Spiteri316, at DaxCity_. Join us on Discord. Join the conversation. We got tons of Metroid fans in there, always talking and having a good time, talking about the series that we love. So we'd love to have you as well. Come join us there. Check out OmegaMetroid.com. We got maps, guides, news, everything that you could possibly need. And so much more. And if you want to take your listenership to the next level, check us out over on Patreon. We got some cool stuff going on over there, some bonus shows, bonus series, and lots of fun stuff over there. And lastly, last plug, check us out wherever you get your podcast. Like, subscribe, recommend us to that Metroid fan in your life. That is it. That is all. We are going to get out of here. Dak, I guess I won't see you for a few weeks. Have a good trip, buddy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you won't be.
I mean, I'm sure we'll talk,
weekend.
But hey.
Yeah, you won't be this weekend. Next episode, I won't be here 2 episodes from now. It might be a little bit. But yeah, hopefully, on the other side, next time we see each other, the Devils will still be in the playoffs, or at least maybe in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm hoping. By the time this episode airs, I'll be at that Game 4, Devils Hurricanes. Let's go.
You know what? Yeah, I have no horse in the race, so whatever. I'll cheer for the Devils. I don't care.
Let's go. But yeah, man. Yeah, we'll be in touch. But yeah, looking forward to our next episode together, which will be in a little bit. Truthfully, don't know what we'll be doing this coming weekend, next episode. So I guess I got a little time
figure
to
it out.
Yeah, to figure it out.
All right, Metroid fans. Until next week, we'll see you with some kind of show. Okay. Ciao.